Welcome, everybody, to the OPT Network. Our guest this morning joins us from Stonewall, Louisiana. If you've never heard of it, well, it's up there near Shreveport. Well, her name is Britt Kham, and she accidentally became a TikTok sensation.
We're making fried crawfish pasta. Let's go. We're making a Louisiana staple, beignets. Let's go.
We welcome her to the OPT Network for the very first time. Britt, good morning and welcome.
Good morning. How are you?
Grateful. How are you?
Fantastic.
Good. So tell us the story, Britt, when you decided to go on TikTok, and what was that about?
I downloaded the app as a joke, kind of like everybody does. And after kind of bouncing between like content ideas, following trends that weren't really working for me, I posted a recipe video. And it didn't start out the way it is now. It started out with like 15 views at a time, and eventually I decided I was going to focus on recipes that I ate when I was growing up. So I posted my mom's spaghetti, and it was rather controversial because I put sugar in it, and that's where it started.
You put sugar in it. Why did she put sugar in it? Tell us what that's about.
We always put sugar. It cuts the tomato, makes it less, what is it?
Acidic?
Not gonna, the tank, yeah, less acidic. And it was a controversial topic. And
so
that's where everything kind of took off
what
from
there. What were people saying about the sugar?
That it doesn't belong. That's what it essentially doesn't belong in the spaghetti.
And so did that just start conversation about your sugar in the spaghetti? And how much sugar were you putting in the spaghetti?
Not enough. You couldn't even taste it. It's not enough to make it sweet. It's just a couple tablespoons to kind of cut the acidity of the tomatoes. And then aside from like the sugar itself, they were talking about my voice and trying to decipher what I sound like and where I was from. So that's between my voice and then the recipe itself, everything kind of took off from there.
From the spaghettis?
Yes.
And so are you a good cook, or were you a good cook when you started?
I don't know if I would say good. Like, I know how to make easy, like filling recipes. Like, I can make a good rice and gravy, but don't ask me to make fresh pasta because I'm going to mess it up. Like, there's certain things that I do really well.
And so after the spaghetti video just got so much traction, you decided to start posting what sort of recipes?
Mainly like stuff that my mom would make when I was growing up. So I focused on, like I said, like rice and gravies. I focused on home cooked meals and meals that could feed a lot of people. One of the things people notice about whenever I post a new recipe, like there's not really any measurement. There's no serving sizes. Generally, I could probably, like if I make a pot of something, it could feed like 10 or 15 people. And that's just like, it's something that you can eat on for a while. It feeds a lot of people. It's super easy to do. And that's kind of the focus of what I make now.
And so what did you start to find when you started to pick up? You went from 15 followers, and then after the spaghetti, when did it sort of just go viral?
After the spaghetti, I think I posted a couple of other videos that did okay. But it really took off after I posted about some fried pickles.
Fried pickles?
That was the turning point. It was fried pickles, yes. And people still comment on that video now. And it's been, I think, almost a year or over a year since I've posted that particular video. And I still get comments on it like to this day.
So tell us about the fried pickles, and what do you think made people go so crazy about these pickles?
Well, it wasn't necessarily the pickles. It was, we go back to my voice. It was my voice that a lot of people argued about. But then the pickles itself was the use of the seasoning that I used, because I use a seasoning blend and I put it in just about every meal. It's Slap Your Mama. I use it in pretty much every single dish that I make if it's not sweet or something like that. And people were like, oh, that's weird. I've never heard of that. And that's kind of been the basis. A lot of people, like, I'm known as the Slappy Mama girl to a lot of people. Yeah.
What is it about that seasoning that you love, that you use it in everything?
It's super easy because it's a blend of salt, black pepper, red pepper, and garlic powder. And if you're going to season a meal, those are kind of like the basic spices that most people use. And it's easy. It's in one can. You can just, pour it in there. It's not too salty, and it helps season food without it being too much, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. And so when did you know that you loved doing these videos, and how were you formulating the recipes for the content?
I knew instantly, like, as soon as people started messaging me saying, "Hey, I saw your video when you posted this, and now I know what I'm feeding my family tonight."
Wow.
That did it for me. And people are like, "Hey, I didn't want to eat today. Like, I'm struggling finding something to eat, but what you posted looks really good. So I'm going to make that, and I'm actually going to eat today."
Wow.
And that's really what did me in, was like helping people and knowing that I was remotely there for others in, the best way that I could be.
And everybody that I talk to, especially people who are busy, wonder, okay, what are we going to have for dinner tonight? Because your choices are they become so limited. And so were you starting to find new creative ways for people to feed their families with easy recipes that were good?
Well, that's kind of how we go back to what I grew up on. So my parents actually took in foster children while I was growing up. So there was a handful of kids in the house, and both of my parents worked. So whenever they got home and we tried to decide what we were going to have for supper that day, it was usually a rice and gravy of some sort, something easy. We could throw in the pot, fry down the meat, add some water, let it simmer, and feed the entire family with no complaints. And that's what I do a lot of now. I've posted several stews and gumbos and sauce pecans and rice and gravies and stuff like that, that I feed my husband and myself now, that whenever I get off work and I'm like, I'm really tired, I don't feel like driving all the way to town, I don't feel like cooking an elaborate meal, I'll throw some rice and gravy in the pot and we eat on it for a few days.
Wow. So once you start getting some momentum, is there pressure now to come up with good, easy meals?
There's not, surprisingly. Now, for a little while there was, but now I have people throwing ideas my way. Like, I have a list on my phone. It's probably about yay long, like, of recipes that they throw ideas at me. They're like, "Hey, have you done this yet?" Or, "Hey, can you try this?" And so I sit on it for a little while. I think of like how I can make it my own. And then that's how I come up. Like, I haven't had to sit down and try to think of a recipe on my own. Like, they give them to me. They're like, "Hey, this is what we want to see." And I'm like, "Oh, that's easy. We can do that."
And so you just go in the kitchen and then you put it together.
Yeah, it's like I've said before, I just kind of like throw stuff in the pot and we'll see what happens.
And so before you've got to go, tell people how they can follow you on TikTok, and what are you hoping for next?
So next, I really want to do a physical cookbook. I have a website that I post everything. All of my recipes go on a website. I created it myself. We were snowed in last January for like a week, I think, and I got really bored and I made a website. So I post everything there and it's free. But next, I really want to do an actual physical cookbook. That's my next goal.
Sure. And so give people the website, Britt, and also tell people how they can follow you on TikTok.
Okay, so my website is www.britt, BRITT, Kham, KHAM, cooks.com. My TikTok username is @BrittKham with 2 T's, and my Instagram is @BrittKham with 1 T.
Absolutely. Britt, thank you so much for all that you do to give us ideas in cooking and incredible recipes. We can't wait to see what's going to happen next for you. And when you get that cookbook, you come back and share it with our listeners and our viewers. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Indeed. Hey, everybody, stay on point. We're back right after this.